Okay, here we are. Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. What we're going to do today is just sort of open it up to question time. I do have certain topics, as always, that we can discuss, but I want to open it up to any questions that you guys have got, and let's sort of work through one at a time and see how much we can cover in the time that we've got. Okay, so first of all, does anyone have a question? Any questions? Hanging on.
I was just looking at the Facebook group and the payments, the online kind of payments you can use for taking people's details, and I've
Yep.
only just briefly read about that. So is that something you just discovered? Is it?
Just something I came across, yeah. See, Apple have done a major upgrade to their system, and it seems that they've got this new device that's just come out, which is really for people who are kind of mobile. Any business, it's really going to open up business, especially people who are home-based businesses. So you can just slot in somebody's credit card and process the payment, which will go via PayPal. But it looks like, well, we've confirmed it actually, that you can do it over the phone. So someone can ring up with their credit card, and what you really want to do, this has been a bit of a problem for a lot of you guys, is that someone will ring in and say, all right, I'll give it a go, and then what you do is you confirm a time, you send them a confirmation, and you hear back. Sometimes you don't hear back from them, they don't make the payment, you start chasing them, you know, play phone tag, whatever, all these things. So what you really want to do now, what I would be doing, is getting one of these units. They cost about 140 Australian dollars, and providing you get approved, you can then just simply accept the credit card over the phone. And that way, what you're going to do is you're going to really find out if they're serious, because if they balk, then you know, well, hang on, this person is not yet convinced, because very few people, you know, plenty of people say, oh, I don't know how to use PayPal, I don't want to use PayPal, etc., etc., but most people have got a credit card. And yeah, there are a few people out there who will still say, hey, I don't want to give my credit card details over the phone, but it really doesn't make any difference whether they've used it over the phone or come to you and give you the credit card. If you're a fraudster, you'll still fraud them regardless. So, and the idea is that it really secures the booking for you and allows you to get a better feel for where you're at with your sales. But probably more important is that it brings any objections to the surface there and then, and you will be able to better understand and better deal with their doubts or concerns at the time, rather than saying, yep, okay, good, book us in, and we'll see you next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll be a case of, okay, I'll just grab your credit card details and I'll put through the sale now, and then we'll see you next Tuesday. And if they go, well, actually, can I pay when I come? And we used to be in this situation, and I used to say to people, I can't hold your booking without the credit card, unfortunately. So perhaps if you could ring me back when you've got your credit card, then I can go ahead and confirm the booking. And then they'd say, oh, but I really want that time, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say, okay, when can you ring me back with your credit card? And they might say, oh, well, you know, we could pay you next week if that's okay when we come. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I cannot hold the time. I've just got too many people booking in at the moment, which was the case. We just had lots of people coming in. And you be very kind, very apologetic, and say, I'm really sorry, but I can't hold the time. You know, if it was a case of you going home, getting your credit card tonight, sure, I can hold the time for you then, but I can't hold it any longer than that. So it really gives you that kind of power to know where you stand with each person. And one other thing that I will add is that a lot of the time people go cold. In other words, they're all excited, they want to book in, let's do it, and then if you don't take the payment, then they sort of think about it for a day or two, and they go, I'd rather spend that money on getting, you know, a new tennis racket, or, you know, spending it on holidays or whatever, or they get the electricity bill comes in and they change their mind. So what you want to do at that point is, well, what you want to do is get them to commit then, because then when those other things come up, they work it out. They go, well, I booked in for the lessons, I paid for them, so I'm going anyway, and it gives you another chance to sort of keep them in. So you're going to find you're going to get a much higher closure rate, and more people committed.
Would you still send a confirmation email even though they've paid by card as well, just with the terms and conditions on?
I would, yeah, definitely still send a confirmation. Once they pay, all you do is you send the same confirmation, and we used to, this is basically was our process, is that we'd send a confirmation email, and it would just say, paid instead of, please pay. We didn't have any of that on there. So, yeah. The other question that sort of comes up, which a couple of guys have, or one guy has mentioned so far, but that I know will come up, is that with the idea of having a subscription right from the word go. So when someone enrolls, a bit like a gym membership where they sign you up on day one. This is a great idea, and it's something that I would recommend, and it's something that even I do now, where a lot of you guys, when you started with me, would pay, you sort of pay the first 3 months or you'd pay the first amount, which was the kind of the starter pack, and then you'd go on to the subscription, and then you'd go on to a different subscription. So I take you off the first one. But what I do now is I put them straight onto the subscription. They still can cancel at any time, but instead of me having to go back and try and get them onto, after they pay the first bit, get them on a subscription and then get on a second subscription, it's all tied into one. So they just start off, and then, like I said, they can cancel whenever they like. So if you really want to get it to the point where you can just do one payment, and it's done, and then it's up to them to take action to cancel from that point on. So in the case of the credit card, you might say, well, if they pay by credit card, which is a one-off payment, it's not a subscription, how are you going to sort of work that out with a subscription? The way that you do it is you take their credit card details and you process the amount of $99, and then what you do is you ask them to go to the subscription and still run the subscription, and you can refund that amount, or you can just hold their credit card details and not even process it and ask them if they could do the subscription. So you can do it either way, but the idea is that you do want to try and get on the subscription from the word go. As you get busier, then you will see that things will start to change. If you think about it, if I want to buy something from, say, Amazon, if I want to buy something from Apple, I can't negotiate terms with these guys. I can't, hey, can I send you cash, or can I do a bank transfer, or can I pay you next week? They don't do any of this stuff. If you want to be an Amazon customer, not only do you have to pay through their kind of avenues that they have set up, you have to go and fill in your details, and you have to become, you have to sign up. So you got to go through certain procedures to become part of their organization if you want to be a customer through them. And that's what happens as you grow. You become more confident. In other words, you're not sort of trying to compromise and every time a customer says, can I give you 20 pounds this week and I'll give you the rest next week. A typical guitar teacher in the UK would probably say, oh sure, no worries, and then next week, oh, I can't make it next week, look, I'll come the week after and I'll bring the money that I owe you, and okay. And next thing you got all these guys who are sort of, I hear all the time, the teacher saying, I got 20, 30, 40, 50 students. If only they would pay, I'd be doing really well. So that's what we're trying to avoid. And they really don't count unless they pay. Okay, cool. So we covered that. Is that, Dave, all good?
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah, that's cool. It's covered everything.
All right.
So, David, I just had a question about that. So if you put them on a subscription right away, how does that work? Like making sure that they get the 5 weeks in, and then putting them on a monthly subscription. Like, how do you do that?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. It's what you're probably going to need to do is set up the subscription in such a way that this is probably how I would do it. Is that I would take their credit card details, charge them the $99, and then send them the details about the subscription, with the idea that if they join the subscription, at a certain point, they get it cheaper. In other words, so maybe for the first month, it's only $1 on the subscription. So they pay the $99 for the first 5 weeks, and then if they take up the subscription by a certain point, then they just pay $1 for that first month, which sort of, it might be week 2, week 3, let's say, of their intro that you do that. We'd have to kind of work it out. I think, I haven't really thought that hard about it yet, but we'd have to work it out so that they get their 5 lessons and they can go onto the subscription. So it might even be a situation where you do a double lesson, the first lesson maybe an hour lesson instead of half an hour lesson, to really, because that first lesson goes quick, right? You kind of got 30 minutes to introduce them to everything. So it may actually work better to do a double lesson and still have it as a 5 kind of lessons, but do it in such a way that it's a double lesson the first week. We probably need to think about it a bit more. I haven't thought about it really, because this has only just happened today that I've discovered all this PayPal stuff. So,
okay,
yeah, we'll think about it. But it's a great question. So now it's out there. I'm sure. Does anyone else have any ideas on that to sort of contribute? No. Okay. We'll just let it sort of simmer for a while, and we'll see what we come up with. Right now, just because we've got to be careful we don't mess with formulas that are working. Otherwise, you can get yourself into trouble. But the idea right now is just keep selling the $99 intro, do it with a credit card over the phone, and then hopefully by the end of that period, then you will have them sign up to the subscription. Just stick to that for now until we think of this other out. Because if you do have a subscription straight up, then you can actually scare people off. Where they go, well, I don't want a subscription. I'm happy to pay for 5 weeks, but I don't want to subscribe to anything. So until we sort of establish that this is something that's going to work, and there'll be a couple of teachers out there who are willing to try it, who are willing to go out on a limb with it. So let's just see who puts their hand up. I know there's always a couple who'll do it, just to see if it works. Okay. Any other questions? This is question time, so I only go to other topics if I need to. Yes, Judy. Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you nice and clear. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking perhaps one way of doing it with the subscription, because I love that. I was going to suggest that myself. I thought that's a brilliant idea to save just that division between the intro and the subscription. Is just to say, how the intro works is that you basically get your first lesson is free, and then you pay, then you send the button after the first free lesson, that same, within that week, and for them to basically make their pay their subscription online before the second lesson. That way it would work.
Yep. Judy, you're very faint, so I can't hear you very well. I don't know if you...
if you just offer them the first lesson, how the 5 weeks works is that you give them 1 free lesson, that's like their intro lesson, and then they pay their subscription before the second lesson. So, basically the first lesson is free, and I guess most people would like that, and so then they pay their subscription, and that will continue to become monthly then. That's
okay, cool. Yeah, the main thing is that we want to make sure that when they ring up to enroll, that at that point that we get them to pay something. We get their credit card details, so that's really important. And I hear what you're saying, and maybe we could even refund that $99 if they go on the subscription. It could be just trying not to confuse them too much. But yeah, we don't, because the thing about, and a lot of guys do this, and there are these things that happen in this industry, in many industries for that matter, that are kind of assumed. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And I'm all about, I'm kind of in a sense very scientific in that I don't like to assume things. I like to sort of test them and see if they work and see if they're true. And there's a very common assumption that goes around that there are guys who are sort of in my sort of position in not just this industry but other industries where they promote this idea of don't put your price on your marketing. And the idea behind that is that they just assume, when I say why don't you put price on a marketing, or how they justify it, they say, oh, because you get more response if you don't put a price on it. And so, and I've asked a few different guys, you know, on this particular topic, how do you know? And they say, well, it's just logical. But unfortunately, with science and in experiments, what seems logical, it doesn't mean it's true. Just because something seems logical doesn't make it true. The only way to really know is if you test it, because there have been many assumptions about many things over the years where they say it seems logical, therefore it's true. Well, actually, no. It's true if it's true. It's not true if it's logical. So the idea and the way that they kind of the logic behind it is that if you put a price on something, then that price could be too expensive for some people. It could be too cheap for some people. So people who are either side of that price range are going to not going to take to it. So for instance, where we're doing lessons at $99, there might be people who really want to pay $10 a lesson. So they look at $99 going, well, that's a bit expensive. I don't think that I'll respond to this ad because it's too much. There are other people who go, well, I don't think, you know, someone charging $99 for a lesson, that's a bit cheap. And they might assume it's just group lessons, and therefore they want private, so they go, well, I'm not going for that because it must be group lessons at that price. So there's all these kind of things that kind of we would think logically that would put somebody off wanting to actually pay the money for it. But the research actually shows different. And the reason is that there are a lot of people, quite a high number of people, who will not respond if there's no price. And this happens in the real estate market. You see there's two kind of sides to the real estate market. There are those who don't put prices on things. They show their houses, they show kind of, you know, what they're trying to sell, and with no price. And then there's the others who put a price on it. And so there's these two schools of thought. But the studies, if you look at the actual studies, that they show that it depends on different factors. Certain prices will actually get you more response than having no price at all. So and the people to look to who are doing it right are the big companies, because what they do is they invest a lot of money into what they do. So if you think of the big companies are the supermarkets, the big retailers, the big fast food stores like, you know, McDonald's, KFC, etc. And you see all the time these guys offer, you know, whatever it is, you know, $2 Tuesday, or you know, get your bumper pack of chicken for only, you know, $20 and feed the whole family. You know, Pizza Hut and Domino's Pizza, $4.95 for a pizza, $9.95 for a family pizza. These guys are always throwing up prices, and it's because these are the guys who actually do the research. They actually spend millions of dollars on researching pricing and how it works. Whereas the other guys, the real estate agents, most of them are, even though a lot of them are part of a franchise, most of them operate like independent operators. So there's a lot of assumption in that industry. So that's where, when you see these things, and that's what I do, actually look a lot to these bigger companies, but I also read and research a lot, and I also test myself where I can. And I found that when I didn't have a price, then I got less response than when I did have a price. And that's why, you know, I've had a few of the guys, G4 members, that have come on, and they've been out there doing flyers before they even joined G4, didn't get much response, and would say to me, they don't really work. And I'd say, show me your flyer, and what I could see, there was no price on it. Try this flyer with a price on it, and they go out there, and it just works consistently across the board. So we know this is one of those areas of assumption. And another area of assumption, which is really what I'm leading to here, is the idea of, you know, people give them a free lesson and they will come. This is the kind of thing everybody loves free, and I see this touted. I go to lots of these kind of marketing training seminars, and some of the people are really good, and some of them are, you know, they're just salespeople pushing a product, trying to sell. But they tout this message quite commonly of put free out there and people will come all day long. You know, it's like standing on the corner with a bunch of hot donuts, free donuts, you know, and people coming, oh great, I'll have one of those. That's the kind of the idea, the mentality behind it. But free, it turns out, is so overdone that you kind of get this thing where people are skeptical about it. They have all these other reasons, but what happens is that even though sometimes you might get a higher uptake of people who respond to your free ad, then what they do, what they found, this is really interesting in the research, is that when you give something away that's free, people value it at that price. Whatever you give it away for is what they value it at. So if you give away a lesson for free, they value your lesson at nothing. They see your lesson as worthless. So when you come to charge them for that lesson, they're, oh, you know, I just had a free one, you know. I don't know if I really want to pay for one now. But also when people look at the ad and see a free guitar lesson, they also have that feeling of it must be pretty cheap and worthless. You know, if they're giving it away for free, it can't be very good. And a lot of people make that assumption as well. So by putting a price on something, you put a value on it. And then when you put the value on it, what people then want to know when they follow up is it worth it? Is it worth the value you're asking? And that's where you want to get the sale there and then, because that's the point where you've spent time with them, you've spoken about what you're doing, what you're offering. And if they can't see the value in that phone call, then offering them a free lesson is not going to really make much difference. You can always offer the free lesson after, and this is kind of my kind of belief, is that offer your lessons at a price, and then when they call to inquire, then the idea is to get them to enroll and offer them a money-back guarantee. I've spoken to quite a few guitar teachers as well, and this is another common thing, is that they won't offer money-back guarantees. They say, no way. If I give my time, that's my time, it's my money. Whether they're happy or not happy, it's done. So what's wrong with that? Can anyone tell me what's wrong with that? That thinking?
Kind of implies that they think, oh, sorry, after you, David.
I guess you feel, I've had this with gym memberships, you know, and I always feel trapped, so that's why I never really want to go and join a gym, because, you know, they don't offer a refund, and I kind of feel trapped, and I don't want to feel like that. So, but I guess if they did offer a refund, I would sign up straight away, you know. That's
exactly. Ben, your take on that?
I was going to say it kind of implies a lack of faith in your own abilities, because if you're not going to say, if you expect people to take the money back guarantee, then you can worry about it. But if after 5 lessons, I think we can feel safe. After 1 lesson, I might be worried about the money back guarantee, because I haven't really built a connection with the student, and just this picking exercise and these 2-3 chords might seem a bit dull. Once they've seen the whole framework, then if they want to offer, because as you say, G4 is not for everyone, so you do want to have happy customers, and you'll get more referrals if they're saying, why don't you try this guy out? He was a great teacher, but I didn't want to learn with his methods. So see if you like it. It definitely looks like it'll work. I'm just a private guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost, you know, when you think about it, you know, you sort of take it in and you put yourself in their position, then you really start to see why. You almost like, why wouldn't you offer a money-back guarantee? Because it's not like I don't recommend offering a guarantee for a year. I don't say, you know, have lessons from me for 1 year, and then if it doesn't work out, I'll give you all your money back. Of course, you don't do that. But you need to give a reasonable guarantee, because if you put yourself, they don't know you, and you're asking them to take all the risk. You're asking them to give up their time and give up their money, and you're not putting anything at risk. And what that does is it builds resentment if they're not happy. And if they're not happy, the best thing you can do is give them their money back, so they at least walk away feeling, well, I didn't get ripped off. You know, they can say, well, I tried it. The guy was genuine. He really tried to help me out. He gave me my money back, no questions asked. And that's the best state you can leave somebody in. And if you're going to be building your business, and you're going to be building your reputation, and you're thinking long term, then the idea is that you want to do the right thing by everybody who comes into your kind of sphere. And that's why, you know, I'm almost of the opposite, thinking of, why wouldn't you give a guarantee? What is it that you're worried about? You know, do you think that your lessons that if I ask for a refund after a month of having lessons with you because I don't genuinely feel this is of any value to me, do you feel that you've somehow been used? And that's what they're worried about. They're worried about this feeling of I've been taken advantage of. Well, what a flattering way to be taken advantage of. You know, someone's come and used your time and taken advantage of you, and they haven't paid. But truly, if they've come and done that, if they've taken advantage of you, it means that they at least respect what you're doing, to have gone to the trouble, because they've still given up their time. Remember, but the truth is that very, very few, if any, people will do that. Most people will actually feel when they ask for a refund that your lessons aren't of value. They're not really what they were looking for one reason or another. So the best thing we can do is let them go, at least feeling happy about what we're doing. And I've had people who've joined G4, who have paid me money, and I've refunded all their money. Not many, just a handful, and not one of them has left saying, I felt, that with any resentment. That I've given them the full refund for their first month, and they've said, Dave, I really like your program. I think you put a lot of work into it, and I've got lots of comments like that. They say good things. Appreciate your time and energy. It just wasn't for me. I'm just not in that place at the moment. Cool. So they've left happy. They haven't left resenting, feeling that they paid money and didn't get anything for their money. So that's the main thing. By the way, you don't have to offer a refund. You don't have to give a refund if they don't ask for it, because some people will still value that intro and they're not going to ask for a refund. That's okay. They just don't want to go on with it. They just figure, I got enough out of that. That's all I need. Thanks very much. So you don't have to say, well, here's your money back. If they don't go on, you just have to honor it when they ask for it. So yep. Yeah, Judy?
Sorry, David. One thing I realised too, I would give up on the idea of the free lesson, but I realised too that normally we give them the resources too, the folder on the first lesson too, so that wouldn't work either. So you wouldn't want to give them that with their free lessons. So I'm with you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, even when they sign up and you occasionally have to give a refund, this is what you're saying there is absolutely right. You don't want to give a free lesson and give the folder. You kind of have to give the free lesson and say, well, look, if you come back next week, I'll give you the folder. I'm going to hold out on you until next week. But if they're paying up front, and that's what I often say to people, they go, oh, can I just come down and see what you do and blah, blah, blah. And I just say to them, look, you're not going to, you won't see what it's all about. You really have to experience it, and I'm absolutely guarantee I'll give you money back if it's not what you want. And it's so much easier. I always found it so much easier to do that, because it's like I can't, just coming down and meeting me for 10 minutes, it's not going to be enough. There's a video on YouTube. You can watch me if you want to see me. But if you want to really experience it, you've got to come down, and I really encourage you to do the 5 weeks, because if you don't do the 5 weeks, you're only going to get part of the whole picture. It takes those 5 weeks to really get a full idea of, because you go into what G4 is all about, and the fact that it's years and years of development, and we're a worldwide network, and we've got all these very smart people who are working on it and developing it. So we know it's an amazing experience for the right people. I don't know if you're right for it. I'll be honest. I don't know. Not everyone is right for G4. And so the only way we can really know that is do the 5 weeks, and if it's not right for you, happy to give you a refund, no problem at all. If they say no to that, then they're not serious. It's really, if they want a free trial of some description, they're not really serious. And I can tell you now, the person down the road might be offering, the guitar teacher down the road might be offering a free trial lesson. What they will do in almost every case is they'll go to the person down the road, do the free lesson, and then they'll come to you, pay the $99 and do the 5 weeks. And then they'll compare. And you know who they're more likely to stick with? You. Because they've been with you for 5 weeks. You've built a much more rapport. You've got a stronger connection with them over 5 weeks. They still know what the person down the road is doing because they had one lesson. So if they do really like the teacher down the road for whatever reason, great. off they go. There's your $99 back. You're a happy customer. So everybody wins either way. All right.
I was just going to say, with that, the money-back guarantee, I find it's really good when you've got an objection of the free lesson. So people say, do you not do a free lesson? I'd much prefer a free lesson. You say, I don't, but I do offer a money-back guarantee. So obviously, if you're not happy after the 5 lessons, you've had no risk and you've got more than one free lesson.
Exactly.
You can't say no to that.
Yeah. Like 5 free lessons. You know, if it's not what you want, then yeah, you can have all 5 lessons for free. But you even sort of put it in a thing as that, normally this would cost you $200 for this 5-week intro, but we do it as a special rate because we want you to experience it, to see what it's all about. And then if you're not happy with that for any reason, we give you a refund. So you really, that's really what, and I learned this years ago, but really what selling is all about is cancelling out any objections, any reason that they have not to buy. If someone's not interested in your product or they're not suitable for it, so and I go back, I was involved with selling from a young age, so I sort of learnt all this before, and I was very fortunate in that my mother had shops selling kind of bedroom things, and my mother is the kind of person who's very honest. She would never deceive or lie to anybody. She brought us up that way to always be honest with people, even if you lose a sale, even if it costs you money, to always do the right thing by people. And to me, the whole idea and the money-back guarantee was something that I probably learned from my mother at an early age, because very few people did it back then. But some of the big department stores started to do it back in the 70s. Believe it or not, it hasn't been around forever. It was really something that came into vogue in the 80s. But what happened was that, my mother, through watching her in business and working with her, sort of showed me this idea of giving people this confidence that if it wasn't right for them, they could bring it back. And to me, there's no more honest way to do business than to say that you can have your money back if you're not happy. What can be more honest than that? Because people would come in. I worked in electronics for a while, selling things like TVs, videos, all that sort of thing. And people would come in and say, "How do I know if this TV is any good?" And I said, "Well, you don't." I said the best thing for you to do is take it home, set it up, see if it feels right and it does all the things that you want it to do. If not, bring it back tomorrow and try something else, or I'll give you your money back. So it was very hard for them to go, "Well, no." And because I could do that, I just sold all day long, because it was just like, take it home, try it, and then you'll know. And it's the same approach that I take with the guitar lessons. Come and try it. I'm not going to give it to you for free. Same with the TV. I'm not going to give you the TV for free. I'm going to give you the TV, pay for it, and then if it's not right for you, bring it back tomorrow and I'll give you your money back. So that shows that they're genuine as well. You're asking them to come halfway with you. You're not putting everything on the line. Because what happens, and I know I've seen this with teachers who give away these free lessons, is a lot of resentment builds with them. If they're very successful at converting, and don't get me wrong, there are some teachers out there who are very good at converting people from the free trial into a student, and that's a strategy that works. So I'm not saying that there aren't other strategies that work, and I know some teachers who do very well with it, but it's at the same time I could say to them it's not necessary. You're creating an unnecessary step in your process. So you're giving up half an hour of your time, you're going through the process of booking them in and so forth, and some of them not following through. Why not just find that out now? Are you serious or not serious? Let's do it, and away you go. I could also pretty much assure you that the number of people who take a free trial and don't follow through is higher than the number of people who don't take up, who ask for a refund. The refund rate is very, very low, very small percentage. So, okay, I think we've covered that topic. Sorry, one thing I will add to that before we move on is that if that fails, then you can always offer a free trial after that. You can always say, ring them back a couple of days later and say, look, I realize you're not, blah, 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 everything, you're not quite ready, whatever. You can just ring them back and say, look, I'd just like to offer you a free trial. Come down this week, Wednesday, etc. And I did that a few times, and in nearly every case they never turn up. because they're just not really ready to do it. It's not about the free trial. It's not about the, it's not about that. It's about that they're not ready. There's something in them that's still holding them back. It's not about the money. Okay, so questions?
I was just going to say, when I was just starting and I was thinking about the free trial stuff, I did say I could do a free trial, but I'd only make it a 10-minute lesson, and it wouldn't be able to be during my normal times, which are free till kind of 10. So that means almost no one can match those times anyway. So you're offering it, but you're saying, obviously I can't have the free lessons during my scheduled slots. So they feel like you're still meeting them halfway, and they just can't make it. And I haven't bothered using that anymore, because if someone asks that, I've just said money back guarantee, and they've been like, ding, sorted. But if they do still go for that free trial, I might consider doing that again, because it doesn't seem like anyone will be able to take it up, but they still won't be annoyed that you have said that, because it's a fair enough point. You can't give up your paid time for free time.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I know what you're doing, and I know what you're saying. My thing is, I don't ever try and make it difficult for them. I want to make it very easy. And
I wasn't trying to make it difficult. It's just that's what I had. I had those slots filled at that time, so I was like, I can't do this one and this one.
Okay, yeah.
So,
okay, cool. As long as it's not it's not a purposeful strategy to try and give them hurdles to jump over. You really want to make it sort of easy, and it's all about really trying to get the right message across, and the message that I always come back to this place of what am I trying to do? What is my main goal here? And my main goal is to help somebody learn guitar. So let's get past the money. Let's get past these things and get to learning guitar, because that's really why you're ringing me. You're not here to discuss and negotiate money. So if I can sort of make it easy for you by saying I offer a money-back guarantee, to me that's as good as it gets. If you're serious about learning guitar, then there's really no other option. Free trials are not necessary. Come down, do the 5-week intro, and then if that's not right, I'll give you your money back, and I'll let you keep the folder and everything as well. So yeah. Cool.
David.
Yes.
Just one more question for me is, I had a lesson start, and they paid the intro fee, and they joined a group yesterday. So I sent the email subscription, and I had a busy day, so I just assumed that they might have signed up, but they sent the child to the lesson without paying the subscription, and so I did the lesson, and then I contacted her last night, and I'm struggling to get payment, from that. So I was just wondering if there's any strategy or any way to go around that to try and get her onto the subscription.
Look, in most cases, in those situations, you just got to really stay on them. And so, if you've rung her, did you ring her today? Did you say?
It was after I finished teaching. It was a couple of hours after they did the lesson. I rang and said, I'd not received any payment or subscriptions, and if she could, redo that, and I resent the email out as well with the link, and I could see she's opened it in MailChimp, but she'd not clicked the payment stage. Sure. So, but she said she was gonna pay it. So. But I get this feeling that she's not going to. So
there's the chances are she's probably trying to see what her child is doing. She's probably still questioning: is my child committed to learning guitar? Maybe I'll just delay this as long as I can. And what you'll find is that if you go through what I call the three strikes, and that is that you've rung her once, so you've obviously left a message or something. I would ring again the very next day and follow it up and say, look, I left a message yesterday. This subscription payment hasn't gone through. I really need to talk to you because I just need to confirm that everything's okay. And then if no response to that, ring a third time and just say, look, I'm really sorry. I have to put your son's lessons on hold until I hear from you, and follow it with an email saying that the lessons are currently suspended. And you will find that when they get that suspended email, if they're still interested, she'll follow up and respond. But just the main thing is to be kind of, and again, it's what are we trying to do? Where are we coming from? We're trying to help people learn guitar. So it's not about money. We're not trying to, put people under pressure financially. What we're trying to do is say, are you committed? Because that money tells me that you're committed. That's why I need you to subscribe, because it shows me that you are serious about this. If you're not following up, then something's wrong. That's how I see it. So when you're ringing with concern about is everything okay? Talk to me. I just need to talk to you to find out. And it's like any relationship. If your wife, you rang your wife 3 times and she didn't respond, you start to worry. You start to think, well, something's not right. She's upset, or especially if you had a fight or something like that, and you ring her and she's not responding. So relationships are pretty much on a parallel. They're pretty much all very similar. So go with your instincts and go, well, something's not right here. This person's not responding, not communicating with me. So the great thing about it is that once they're on the subscription, you don't have to worry about this again. So you can be a little bit flexible. Remember, it's not easy getting students. In the beginning, you've gone out and you know how much time you put in to get the flyers out there and get the phone ringing and go through the sales process to get them there. They've paid the intro, is that correct?
Yeah, they paid the intro, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the intro is paid. Now what you're looking at really is just getting them to pay for the subscription. So, if they're a week late, it's not you don't want to be chasing and worrying about it, but it's something that is you might to help with that, you might pull it back. That's what I did. What I was doing was I was sending out the subscription email originally on the same the kind of the day that it was due. I would send the subscription and say the subscription is due today, etc. And so then a day, 2, 3 days had passed, and it wasn't, and then a week had passed, and they hadn't done it. So what I did was that I got to the point where I was sending 2 weeks before, saying that hope everything's going well with the intro, etc., etc., etc. Just letting you know that subscription is due on this day. You need to pay by this day to confirm your time for the group, and that way I still had another lesson, at least sometimes 2 lessons before that happened. And so then I would say, did you get the email okay? And they would say, yeah, all good, thanks. Okay, fantastic. All confirmed for the group? Yep, good, excellent. And then what I would do is if they didn't pay on the day at the time, I would send them an email straight away, basically the next morning, saying that it was now overdue. And that way it actually reduced it a lot. It reduced it down. We used to have about 15%, sometimes 20% of people were paying late. But then that brought it down to under 10%. I think it was about 8% or something in the end. But it really made a difference. It really cut it in half, the number of people who were paying late. So yeah, and the other, most of the others they would pay in a week anyway. But they would some people just work that way. Some people really stretch it out to the maximum. They think somehow that the longer the money stays in their account, the more interest that they make. So
I had one guy who I sent the email that within 2 minutes he'd subscribed. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So yeah. I wish everyone was like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm like that. Because I value the relationship more than I do the money. So whenever I have, and so with my landlords, every single landlord will tell you that I'm the guy who always paid on time or early. It's because I wanted to maintain a good relationship, because I always had in my mind, and again, this is a lesson I got from my mother, I guess, but if there's ever a problem or a bad month or something happens, your landlord will know that you're honest, that you genuinely are having a tough month, and and they'll be more forgiving because you've been such a good tenant. Whereas if you're the kind of person who's always late and they're always chasing your phone, I don't want to deal with that. You know, I don't want to have people ringing me and trying to chase money. So I pay everything on time. I also automate everything. So any bills that I've got to pay, if I can possibly set it up for an automatic payment, I will. And most money comes in and out of my account without me even seeing it. That's really the way that I want it, because I'd rather be doing other things than worrying about the money. Excellent.
Yeah. Thanks.
No worries. So, any other questions? We've got time. Okay, well, I will go to my magic list and see what we've got on here.
Question.
Yes, Judy, go for it.
I did have one. Sorry, I was just asking about what you guys use, what teachers use for a notebook. I guess I give the students all the folder and the PGM, but I've got this little book here that I had used at some stage, just a music journal, and I was wondering if something like that, whether you guys use something like that, which is just something for the teacher to write in, like what their homework is, basically if there's something they, you know, like the 2 skills that they particularly need to work on, you know, over the following week. Or even just something to put nice comments in or put stickers in, you know, rather than just on the folder or on their guitar or on their hand.
Yeah, that's. Cool. I'm glad you raised that question. I'll see if any other guys want to throw in some comments first, and then I'll come at the end. Does anyone want to say something? No. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I'll give you my take. Judy, the whole kind of approach that I took with the G4 guitar method and the groups is I knew that as the groups sort of grew to a group of 5, and you know, you've got half an hour and you've got the students coming in and out, I wanted to eliminate totally, as much as possible, the need for writing. And that, because writing, every time you write, and you know, you can see music teachers do all this at the time, they're sitting, especially guitar teachers, they sit there and they write out or tab out something, and they will actually use half the students' lesson time writing a lot of the time. And even though it feels valuable, it can mostly be eliminated. And so the idea is that you think about everything that you need to write, anything that you write, what you want to do, and this is what I did, this is the whole way I developed G4, was how can I eliminate that? What do I need to do to eliminate that task of writing? So that's where I would sort of say, come up with what you want is a notebook for yourself to write down the things, the questions you have. So why did I write this? How do I do this? So you said things like that. How do I write a nice comment for my students? What's something that I can do for them to say you're doing really well? Well, the reality is that you don't actually need to do those things. It does feel nice sometimes to the student to do it, but it's not actually going to make a lot of difference. What will make a difference, because really what you're trying to do is just make the student feel good about what they're doing, and that's what the checklist does to a large degree, because as they get a tick, they're being rewarded. The ticks actually are very valuable to students. The other thing is that down at the bottom of those checklists, we've got actually a line for each where you can write, and I suggest writing in pencil and then erasing it as you need it. And again, try and minimize it. So think about, okay, I want the student to do, let's say, an arpeggio exercise, and you might feel you need to write that arpeggio exercise out. What's a better idea? If you have an exercise that they can't remember in the lesson, then make a video and then send them a link to the video. And that way they can actually look at that video outside of the lesson. Again, you haven't had to write anything down. Another thing that you can do is, well, the thing that I used to do was I would try and only give them things that they could remember. I was all about learning it and taking away and retaining it. So, because as we know with music, it's really about skill development. It's much better to, well, like with a scale, for instance, when I would teach a scale, I would teach them the first 2 notes of the scale. I'd say, this is all I want you to learn: C, D, C, D. C, D, go away and do that. C, D. That's all I want you to do this week. Next week when you come back, I'll give you another note. C, D, E, bang. We put on the extra, the F, whatever. So all I'm trying to do is build that knowledge, because as we know, what we practice, and I'm sure you guys practice as far as the scales are concerned, the C scale, you're still practicing it to this day, I'm sure, as most of us do. But it doesn't take that long to learn the scale, but you've got to practice and practice and practice for years and years and years. So like if I look at Mia, for instance, even though I work with her every day, so it's a little bit different. But she doesn't need, I can tell her to do something and she knows how to do it. Because she's just memorized each thing. And on top of that, most of the things, it's about the whole philosophy again behind G4 is teach them to fish, not give them fish. So something like, if they say to me, I forgot the C scale, really? Go to Google. Just Google it. How to play a C scale in open position. How to play a C scale on guitar. It'll be there. There'll be 25 pages of listings of C scales. So I don't want to hear that you forgot how to do it. I want you to, and I was doing this before YouTube, by the way. So this was, but they could still find tab online at that point. So that's really what you're trying to do, is you're trying to get it to systemize it to the point where you're not writing at all. So you're literally, everything is there. Because also, of course, we've got the scales there. There's a scales book. So if they need to know what the scale is, they can go and look it up. The reading is all straightforward. The arpeggios, again, there's an arpeggio book. So everything's there. So if there's something that's not there that needs to be written down that you're thinking of, then let us know. And if you can do things like some of the teachers do, is you can have some stickers if you like, and just stick them on their checklist, or you can even create another page, put it in there, and just put a sticker. Let them have some stickers. I've been thinking about that as well, as have something just like a page with maybe places where you can put stickers, so each time they do something well, you can go bang, give a sticker. But it becomes, you got to be careful you don't sort of load yourself up. Does that make sense with extra stuff?
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that, David. No, that's good. I guess I've got by without it so far, and I've just had my own book, which has been really, really useful, mainly for me to remember what I worked on with a student, last week. So. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Brilliant. Well, that's brilliant. You keep a notepad on yourself and what you need to remember, and also about you as a teacher. That's what I used to do. That was really the secret to my success, if you like, is that I would write notes on me. I was constantly looking at myself. I could have done that better. Things like I'd say, I seemed to be disorganized in that lesson, or I didn't quite know the answer to that question, or I didn't have a good example of an arpeggio for that particular arpeggio, or I was getting tired by the end of the day because I wasn't, eating enough or drinking enough. So looking for ways to improve my performance little bit by little bit by little bit. It's the Toyota philosophy. Toyota, I don't know if you know the Toyota philosophy, but Toyota is all about making small improvements over and over and over every day. Toyota make changes. They make something like 2 million changes to their factory every year. So they're constantly making these improvements, and that's what you want to do. It's actually part of Japanese philosophy, is to make constant improvements every day, small improvements. So if you look at your teaching actually becomes a lot of fun when you're looking at yourself as a constant improving kind of offering to your students. So you look at yourself and go, how can I make myself better today? Or you're taking notes away, well, how can I improve on that? What can I do that's better? And that's really the evolution of G4, and it's still the evolution now. I'm looking at how can we make it better. Last, couple of weeks ago, we had the parent guide come out, and that was an idea from Paul, and it was like, great, let's go. This is something, and we, Ben jumped in there, grabbed it, with both horns, and together we sort of pulled it together and made it into something that has improved G4. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's really taken us up a level. Just that thing. some things will make a little difference, but every now and again you come up with something that sort of makes a big difference. And I think already, there's already one teacher who said it, but I'm sure a couple of the teachers feel the same way, that the parenting book is going to give them something that's going to help them to keep students and reduce the loss. Yeah. So yeah, keep looking at yourself, keep getting better. That's the name of the game.
Actually, one of the notes I did find on myself was that I quite often there's a temptation to give too much information, particularly or more specifically, I'm very tempted to, when you're helping them with the C chord, to actually go into the chord structure, just that 1, 3, 5, just to get that fundamental, idea in their head that how it fits in the scale, so it just stays with them. Yeah.
Look, it's the common thing with teachers is that they feel that it's almost like it's like going to a restaurant, and they feel the more they give, the more value the student seems to get it from it. But the reality is that people walk out with a stomachache. You're better off, especially with education, you're better off giving people a little bit of something that they will absolutely remember than giving them a lot of something that they don't understand. And it's a common problem amongst teachers everywhere. And I notice I go to these business and marketing seminars, and I often walk out of them thinking, wow, you just overloaded me with all this information. Really, had you just stuck to this one thing and really explained it well and taken me through, so I could have walked away doing one thing that I understood. Now I've got all this other stuff that I've got to try and work out and understand. Give me a link to a website, and I'll go and look it all up. But people don't need information, especially today, because it's all out there. There's so much information, on the internet, that it's not information that people want. What people want is to clear the mess and give me some clear instruction and clear step by step, of how to do it. And that's what, again, is what I hope that we're doing, and what we're about is we want to make it so people understand. I've even had people on my videos that I've done on YouTube say, stop. These are people. A few people are annoyed, saying, you don't have to count every step, or you don't have to say every note. It's just because these are people who are saying that are people who obviously already play music, and all they want to do is learn the song or learn what I'm teaching. They don't need me to go through these step by step. That's cool. This video is not for you. This video is for a beginner. I've got a list of people who go, great video, really well presented. You can go and have a look at them, but you'll see different people say different things. And so, it's not for everyone. Again, that's G4. G4 is not for everyone. So if you have an advanced student come to you, they don't want to be told, the C chord has a C, an E, and a G in it, and this is how we do it. Yeah, I know that. Just show me how to use it. That's not the student that we're trying to serve. We're trying to serve the student who's sort of in that beginning stages, and really building it up. So, and you'll if you start off small, you'll start to see that the student is grasping it. And there's certain techniques as well, such as tell me now. You explain it back to me, or you explain it to the class, and then they proceed to explain it, and then they understand it. That's the way it's done. Okay, cool. Any other questions? All right, I'll just give you. It looks like we've got still a little bit of time, but I'll go into these sessions. By the way, I put them up for an hour, but I run them longer if they need it. Yes, Ben.
Just a little quick one with that, the theory and the going off too far into it.
Yep.
I've decided that I'm going to try and not mention it really at all until we do the first lesson on theory, and then after that, would you recommend ever kind of, as an example of what we're going to do next lesson of theory, it's used in this scale, for example, or for example, when you're about to get to the chord building, would you wait until you've done the chord building in a theory lesson before you ever mention it anywhere else, or would you give a kind of, this is coming, this will be coming, just before you get to it, so they can see it in an example first? So I don't know whether that'll help or just be overwhelming.
Yeah, look, with the theory, with my classes, I kind of went reverse. Whereas when I was in my sort of teens, I got right into theory. I was, I just became really interested in it. I wanted to know how it all worked, and I used to sort of spend hours every day, in the library studying and trying to work it all out. And then I went to the Conservatorium of Music in Sydney and did a course there, jazz fundamentals and theory, and I just found it absolutely fascinating. I got right into it, and then what I was doing, but then I realized what I was doing was I was, flooding my students with theory all the time, and not actually doing a lot of playing. So I did that kind of for quite a few years, and then I sort of balanced it out a little bit. But then when I sort of got to the G4 stage, if you like, I sort of flipped it and thought, the theory doesn't take that long to learn. It's not that the theory, it's good to know some basic theory, and it's good to understand the theory, but it's the actual skills that you think about it. To actually play a C scale, just a C scale really well, is going to take, a fair few hours, and I'm talking about playing it well, maybe even hundreds of hours, depending on what your level of satisfaction is. But to learn what a C scale is, you can learn it in an hour. I can explain to you what a C scale is probably in half an hour. So the theory is not really, doesn't need to be pushed. It's something that you can just throw in little bits and pieces. The theory book is there. I say to students, go through the theory book, read through it, understand it, and then I'm going to be filtering that into the lessons. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about in the lessons, go back to the theory book. But something you can also do is run theory workshops. So you rather than spending much time in your lessons, because what your lessons are really about, your 30-minute lessons are about training students how to practice. It's like a training session. This is what we do. We practice like this. And you start off with the picking, you do one skill, do the other skill, bang. Now, if you want to be a really good guitarist, you need to do that. You need to expand that. You need to be doing it an hour a day or 2 hours a day. But this is a half an hour. This is a sample of what you do in a practice session. So there's not as much teaching going on with G4. That's the thing, is there's not as much of educating people on what it is. And the reason for that is because the method itself sort of lays out a structure. So in the first stage of it, you think about, okay, we've got the 7 essential skills. Once the students go through that first stage of finishing the first checklist and they move to the second checklist, then it's just more of the same. It's, you're still picking, you're still doing chords, you're still doing arpeggios, except we're stepping it up a bit, we're doing harder ones. So if somebody understands what a C scale is, then they're going to understand what really any scale is. In essence, they might not know the exact notes in the scale, but they know what a scale is now. Prior to that, it was a mystery. But now, every new scale you give to them is still a scale. Every chord is a chord. Every rhythm is a rhythm. So they kind of know what it is, and they have the ability to even go and look it up on the internet, so they can go and start finding out more about what those things are. Getting into kind of theory concepts, if you're trying to teach things that are more in depth, I would definitely do workshops. If you want to teach harmony or counterpoint, or even improvisation and so forth, yeah, I would run separate workshops. And that's the beauty of group teaching, is you start to create a highly profitable business, which then allows you to run workshops. And as G4 grows, this is kind of the image that I have for G4, is that if you just think about it, for instance, you guys in the UK, imagine when we've got 40 or 50 locations around the UK, then you can have these kind of joint workshops where one of you can run a workshop, and you can have people who come. You can have 50 people there, 100 people. It really doesn't matter, but it's going to allow you to do that as you grow. But even without that, even just running your own operation, when you get to that kind of 50, 60, 100 students, then you can run these workshops, because your profit margin is good. So you can then have that luxury of running a 1 hour or even 90-minute workshop on a particular topic that your students will benefit from, keeping your half-hour lessons to strictly conditioning them for how to practice. That's what it's about. It's all about conditioning practice. Make sense? All good? Yeah. Okay, cool. Shane, I'll come to you because the reason I'm going to Shane, I know Shane is a very serious practicer. He spends many hours, and he spent many hours on his bass, perfecting the art of bass playing. What's your routine, Shane, for a good practice session? What do you try and cover in a practice session? On bass.
Yeah, well, I do. I usually have 3 topics. So, technique, transcription, and tunes. They each start with a T. I like that. So the technique can be anything. Start with a warm-up, something really slow, and then go on with whatever I'm working on. Scales or chords or anything. Can be anything. Reading. And then transcription is exactly that, transcribing whatever soloist I'm working on.
Yeah.
And then the tunes, which is just repertoire.
Yeah.
And then I divide it up depending on what I need, and I always divide it up in an hour. So I might do 10 minutes or probably 15 minutes each of technique and transcription, and then 30 minutes of repertoire. And then if I practice for 2 hours, I just repeat that whole process again for the second hour.
Yeah.
And if I go for third hour, do it again. Yeah.
With the transcription, what are you transcribing? Are you making like a kind of fake book style thing, so chords and a melody, or are you transcribing all different instruments? Or
no, the only time I write it down is I never write it down.
So you're working it out.
If I want to show it to someone, or if I'm actually transcribing like a chart, like a big band chart, then I'll write it down.
Okay.
But otherwise, and then it's not going to turn up in my playing if I write it down, because that's a different process rather than playing it and memorizing it. Yeah.
That's a good plan, actually.
Yeah.
Excellent, fantastic. That's great because in a sense G4 is doing the technique. That's what the skills are about, and then we've got the songs, which is the tunes. So you've thrown transcription in as well, which is great, and it's something that definitely I would recommend, because it is, especially for a jazz musician. You've got to be able to do that stuff pretty quickly and on the fly. You don't have a lot of time to. It's just the nature of jazz.
Yeah.
So, in Ben, what do you do? What's your practice? How do you plan your practice?
I normally just pick a few skills based on what I feel that I haven't been working on recently and hasn't been working recently, and I do more often do the skills directly in songs. So if I think I'm going to work on picking, what's a good song to play that alternate picking? How about that sextuplet line from Rodrigo and Gabriela? And then I'm going to do arpeggios. What's a good song to do that? I'm going to do some chords. What uses some hard chord shapes for me to play? So I still work on the skills, but almost exclusively basing that. Well, after I've done some just standard picking warm-ups, like a spider. What do you call it? A caterpillar?
Yeah.
That kind of just all the very basic picking warm-ups, some string skipping, and then just sections of songs, then entire songs, then sections of songs, then entire songs. And it's mostly just swapping between different difficult sections that highlight what I need to work on, and then a bit of relief that means my fingers can calm down, everything can relax, I can feel a bit better about my playing by playing some stuff I can do, and then swap back and forth.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Excellent. So, okay, I'll just go on to Judy as well. What do you do, Judy? How do you do your practice?
Okay, basically, my practice was all over the place until I started G4. I was trying to do everything at once, which is pretty much my character. And so I just practiced for hours and hours. Wonder why I wasn't getting too far. But because, again, I think I explained, because I was self-taught for so long and was frustrated with a lot of teachers, that because there wasn't a pathway, there really wasn't you know, like the checklist, and so that's why I fell in love with the G4 guitar method, because it gave that structure, and so it's actually helped me a lot too. One thing, because of the business, I find that there's that other stuff to try and find time to fit in too. A lot of it learning the new technology, getting familiar with Google, you know, and there's that, you know, the 3 different Googles and Box and all of that. And then finding time to look at videos and keep up to date. That's the tough one, keeping up to date with current music and that too. But I think that that will progress more as, you know, more students, because I'm seeing what their ultimate song lists are, and so I can look up those songs too and wrap my head around those too, and yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. That's great. It's I kind of want to go sort of across the 3 of you and sort of tie a few things in here. Is that with our practice, Judy, what you're talking about, that even the best of best people still experience that to some degree. You know, none of us have the perfect practice schedule. We have good days, bad days. Some days we kind of, you know, we throw it around and we're a bit disorganized. We don't follow our kind of routine that we want. It's a bit like the person who, you know, has the good intentions of eating healthy foods, but then, you know, they splurge on a bit of junk food, or, you know, have a chocolate or something like that. Nobody's perfect, so nobody can claim, there might be someone out there, but I certainly don't know them, can claim to have the perfect thing. So having what G4 does, and really what any structured kind of style of practice, if you like, does, is that it starts to help you to see the way that you're practicing. That's really what it's about. It sort of breaks it down. So, you know, the way that I worked is that I do basically 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And because I know, and this is also found in research, that 10 to 15 minutes is about the best concentration of somebody. Now, of course, with music and guitar, you've got to warm up. There's that period of warm up as well. You know, the longer you practice, kind of the better you get at whatever you're doing. But by compartmentalizing it into 10 minutes, it stops me from getting sort of sluggish or lazy or drifting off. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm always doing this, because I'm just like everybody else. Sometimes I'm really diligent with my practice, and other times I'm not. But the ideal that I'm aiming for, and the whole thing about G4 was to lay out what I put together as the ideal way to practice, and what has worked for me. When I've stuck to that, it's been the best result that I've gotten. Now, in anything that you do, and right across your life, you know, the way that you spend your time, you can always improve. And this is where the kind of 80-20 principle comes in. So if you're practicing 3 hours a day, there's a very good chance, that we could do that. You could get that same amount of practice done in an hour and a half. That you could actually halve the practice time that you do, and by doing the things that matter most. And the other thing is that don't try and be good at everything. You know, the world doesn't need people who are you know, all-rounders. Or the all-rounder is a thing of the past, because all-rounders just fall into the middle. Because in order to be well-rounded, so to speak, you have to be practicing lots of different things. You have to be right across the board. Someone who can practice a couple of things and get really good at those things is someone who will be remarkable, and it's someone who will be, you know, feel that sense of satisfaction. Now, there are certain things that you need to do, but the way that G4 is that, okay, here are the essential skills. You don't have to be good at tapping. You don't have to even be a shred picker. You don't have to, you know, play a million different chords. You don't have to do those things. These are the essential skills that you really need to know if you want to play guitar. Try and just work out which of those skills are going to be most important to you, and then start to focus your practice around those. So depending on the style that you're into, so if I have someone who comes to me and says, look, I want to be a shred metal player, dude, you're going to have to spend most of your time on picking. That's really what's going to matter for you. Don't worry too much about the chords. And if you come to me and say, look, I want to be, the next Joe Pass, then I'm going to say, dude, you need to do some serious chord work, serious theory. You need to listen to a lot of jazz music. So depending on the kind of player you want to be will depend on which of those skills that you're going to devote most of your time. So we want to introduce them to those skills. We want to get them to a level where they need to have those skills. Those essential skills, you've got to have them at a certain level, no matter what you decide to do. It's like the English language. We all have to speak at a certain level to participate in an English-speaking world. But beyond that, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to be a politician, you want to be a lawyer, a barrister, or you want to be a scientist, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to do, you want to be an actor, you want to do Shakespeare, whatever you want to do with your language, then you need to have those extra skills, extra knowledge that it takes to sort of really go into those areas. So, and the reason I'm kind of doing this is to give you a kind of more depth to the G4 and the fact that what it is, and it's not the only way. There are multiple ways, as you guys have just mentioned there. What each of you have said. Ben's TTT method. Shane's TTT method, and Ben's sort of system of doing his practice and working on the things that matter. These are systems that work. But the most important thing is that you have a system of some description, because without a system, then you're not really monitoring what you're doing. And most people are actually, in the way that they practice, are quite chaotic, in that they hear a song. They call it in business the shiny object syndrome, and it's really everything. Oh, this looks good. I'll do this. Oh, this song sounds good. I'll learn this. Oh no, that's a new song. I'll learn that one. So, you know what I mean? Constantly going off in different things. What you want to do is become the person that you want your students to be, and that is that. From my point of view, I'm not really interested in learning the songs my students want to play. They're not of interest to me. They're not songs that I like. But I understand that they want to learn those songs. And I've got enough skill to be able to learn those songs to a basic level. But like I had, for example, I had a young guy who was Metallica mad, and he joined G4, and he was. His father really liked what we were doing, and he said his son really needs it because his son was all over the shop. He'd been learning guitar for about 2 years. I put him in one of my senior classes, and every class he'd come and go, "Can we learn a Metallica song, dude?" And I'd say, "We're learning the skills. Write them on your ultimate song list," and then he would keep sort of hinting, "Can we do a Metallica song?" Because he'd had private lessons where he was kind of working through Metallica songs, but his technique was woeful. And he'd really hit this wall where he couldn't go beyond it, and he couldn't really play. He actually knew whole Metallica songs, but when he played them, they sounded pretty bad. He knew all the notes, he knew where they went, he just didn't have the technique to execute them well. So I explained to him that it's the skills that you need to do. Now, he ended up dropping out. He stuck around for a year, but he ended up pulling out in the end because he just didn't really want that structure. But the other guys that were in the group, who actually started as a beginner level, just progressed past him at a rapid rate. And that's why he ended up giving up, because he wasn't practicing. He wasn't doing the practice. He was going home and learning chaotically. He was just wanting to play his Metallica. And he was doing what a lot of teenagers do, and I was guilty of it as well, where you've got your guitar, you've got your amp, you've got your music player, you whack it up and you just play along as best you can. And I used to do that with AC/DC songs when I was about 14, 15, until I started having lessons and my teacher said, "All right, let's do this. We're going to do it right." And that's why I know that so well, and I know where that leads, and I know that it's just a chaotic way of practicing. So in saying that, no matter what you do, you can always improve your practice. So let me throw this at Shane for a minute. Shane, do you think that your practice can be improved?
Sorry.
Sorry, Shane. Do you think that you got it? Yep. Go.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think my practice can be improved. I try to I guess, condense it as much as I can, which is why I do everything in an hour or less, and then if I decide to practice longer, I repeat that same process. That's the reason I do that, rather than spreading it out over multiple hours. But you know, it's never perfect. So I'm always trying to condense it and get more specific with everything as much as possible. And I've never reached a perfect point, but I guess that's my thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you never will. That's the thing, and that's great because there's always room for improvement. So, have you ever videoed yourself?
Yeah, I've experimented with videoing and recording myself during practice, but the best thing is to definitely just set it up in a way that you can press record and then forget about it until it's done, because otherwise you end up fiddling around the whole time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find that recording myself, actually, just a little bit of a tangent, but this one guy I know decided to practice for 8 hours a day and put it up on YouTube every day, and it was really cool because he videoed himself and then sped it up so you can see the whole thing in 2 minutes, and there were like 50 of us watching him for 2 months practice 8 hours a day. It was incredible. He had like a line of apples, and you'd see him like disappear every once in a while, but he's just stayed there for the whole time.
Fantastic.
So that he's a pretty good player now, if you can imagine that.
Yes, 8 hours a day. And the fact that he's gone to that trouble as well of videoing himself, you know, even if you don't watch back the video, there's something about recording what you're doing and knowing you're on camera. You're not going to sit there and spend too much time daydreaming, because you know, this, I'm being monitored. Even if it's me monitoring it myself, and especially if he's putting it up on YouTube, he's kind of declaring to the world that, that'd be fascinating. I don't know if you've got that link, but I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to find the link. Probably still up there. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you do, can you post it in the group, Shane? I'd be interested as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That was about a year. That was about a year ago, so I think the link should probably still be around. Hopefully.
Okay. Hunt through Google, hunt through YouTube.
Yeah, if you spot it, if any of you spot it, just stick it up on Facebook. That'd be really interesting to see. Excellent. Well, look, see, the thing is that with your practice, always look at how to improve the quality of it, and what we're trying to do is get that message across to students as well. It's about the quality of your practice, and you sure, it's quality times quantity, but if the quality is not right, the quantity, it's going to be less relevant. And if you can condense it down, there's the theory of Parkinson's law, I think it's called, if you give someone half an hour to do a job that, a certain job, or you give them an hour, either way they'll take the time that's required. They'll take half an hour to do it, or they'll take an hour to do it. So if you condense your practice down and know, okay, you've only got half an hour to practice, and you can even try this as an experiment, is to say, what would you do if you only had half an hour to practice, and try and condense your practice into that half an hour, and then just reset it. Really, like what Shane's doing, is an hour and a half, and then reset the practice and do it again for another hour and a half. You can even try and bring that down to half an hour. Do practice for half an hour, reset it, and do another half an hour. And what would you eliminate out of your practice? And that's another thing to ask yourself. What would you take if you still wanted to be an extraordinary player? If I take Shane as an example, you still want to be an extraordinary, remarkable bass player that people talk about, with only practicing half an hour a day. What would you do in that half an hour? I'll throw that question at Shane. What would you do if you only had half an hour? What would you work on? What would be the most important thing?
Well, sometimes I only have half an hour, so I stick to my program, and it'll just mean I can only do 5 minutes of technique, 5 minutes of transcription, and then spend 20 minutes working on my rep. which is kind of just going through everything so that I don't forget it. That's basically what it ends up being. But I try to condense everything down to that half an hour. That's what I do. If I only have, or even 20 minutes, if I only have 20 minutes, it's better to get that in that day than leave it till the next day.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, that's you know, and that's the way that I approach it. Is that I don't practice as much these days as I used to. But the other thing is that I've had quite severe tendinitis, and so I have to be careful not to over practice because I've done that, and it really threw me out of the game for a long time. And even now, I still have it. So if I over practice, then I'm in trouble again. So I really try not to do too much practice. But I'm also, you know, juggling family, the business, and everything else. So, you know, I practice 90 minutes most days. Sometimes it's only 60 minutes, but I really try and make the most of that time that I've got to practice. I spend an hour doing skill work, and then I spend half an hour doing, you know, songs, going over some repertoire, and doing, you know, songs that I like to do. And as far as I'm concerned, you're better off, you know, and I tend to learn one song at a time. So I'll just work my way through a particular song, and then I'll start another song. But then I'll go, you know, and you know, just pick out a few songs from a list that I do. And because I'm not performing much, the only times I perform is when my brother is doing his stuff, and I'll go and join him. Then I just learn his repertoire, whatever he's doing at the time, and make sure that I know those songs so I can jump up with him and play when the time comes. We're out of time, so any last comments anyone want to throw up? Yeah.
I was just going to say I posted the link to the video if you want to see it. The guy who did all the practicing, I couldn't find the individual videos. He had like, you know, whatever, 50 individual videos, and it seems like he made it into one promo video now, so I just posted that link on the chat.
Cool.
Yeah.
I already had the G4GN members Facebook group open, so I've already copied that in and posted that there.
Oh, nice. All right.
Too quick for you. I gave you the credit though. Don't worry.
That's great. Thanks for that, guys. That's excellent. I will hopefully see you in the next hangout. Thanks for dropping by, and this will be replayed if you want to see it again. Yeah, until next time. Thanks very much.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Nice to meet you, Judy.